You trust yourself now. You know that the voice inside you is stronger than the noise outside. You've learned to quiet doubt, to embrace your progress, and to choose peace over worry. And with each affirmation, you've built a foundation of clarity, confidence, and courage. But there's still something many carry without even realizing it. Something that quietly holds them back from fully stepping into the life they deserve. It's not fear, not exactly. It's guilt. The belief that happiness must be earned, that joy must be deserved, that only after proving your worth can you finally allow yourself to feel good. That's why the next affirmation cuts so deep. I deserve happiness. 3 words that may feel uncomfortable at first, maybe even wrong. Because if you're like most people, you've been taught that happiness comes after success, after sacrifice, after proving yourself enough times. But what if that's the lie holding you back? What if you don't need permission to feel joy? What if you already have the right to love, to peace, to fulfillment, just by being who you are? Think about how often you delay happiness. You tell yourself, once I reach this goal, then I'll celebrate. Or once I fix this part of my life, then I'll allow myself to relax. But happiness was never meant to be a reward for perfection. It was meant to be your natural state, a birthright, not a prize. Every time you deny yourself joy because you haven't earned it yet, you reject a part of your true self. You live as if you must become someone else before you can feel whole. Here's the psychological truth. When you withhold happiness from yourself, you create inner conflict. Your mind starts believing that peace is conditional, that you must suffer now to enjoy later. But suffering doesn't build resilience. Clarity does. Peace doesn't come from fixing everything. It comes from accepting that you are already worthy of joy, even in the mess. Especially in the mess. This is where real transformation begins, not in chasing happiness, but in claiming it. Saying I deserve happiness isn't indulgence, it's reclamation. It's refusing to wait for circumstances to align before you allow yourself to feel good. Because here's the secret no one tells you. Happiness doesn't follow success. It fuels it. When you operate from joy instead of pressure, you attract better opportunities, make clearer decisions, and move through life with a strength that no external validation could ever match. And yet, so many fight this idea. They believe they must work harder, prove more, do better before they can truly relax. But ask yourself this. Would you tell someone you love that they must earn their happiness? Would you look into the eyes of someone dear to you and say, not yet, you haven't done enough? Of course not. You'd remind them that they deserve to feel good simply because they exist. So why do you treat yourself differently? That's the power of this affirmation. It forces you to confront the belief that you must be perfect before you can be happy, that you must be flawless before you can be loved, that you must be extraordinary before you can be enough. But you already are enough, right now, in this moment, without needing to change a single thing about yourself. And here's the reward. When you start speaking these words with conviction, I deserve happiness, something shifts. You begin to notice beauty in places you used to overlook. You allow yourself to rest without guilt. You stop punishing yourself for imperfection. You open your heart to joy without waiting for the perfect timing. And in doing so, you give others permission to do the same. Because happiness is contagious. When you radiate peace from within, you inspire those around you. You become proof that joy doesn't require perfection, that healing doesn't demand punishment, that fulfillment begins the moment you decide you are worthy of it. So let go of the idea that you must earn happiness. Let go of the belief that joy is a luxury reserved for the flawless. Let go of the need to justify your right to feel good. You were born with that right. It has always been yours. Say it again and mean it. I deserve happiness. Say it until it silences every voice that told you otherwise. Say it until it becomes your truth. Say it until you feel it in your chest, in your breath, in every step you take forward. Because happiness is not a destination, it's a choice. One you get to make today, tomorrow, every day. And once you start making it, nothing will ever hold you back again. Now, let's keep going. Let's explore the next affirmation, the one that will help you silence self-doubt forever, and finally stand in the full truth of who you really are. You've let go of the need to earn happiness. You've learned to trust yourself, to celebrate your progress, to choose peace over worry. And with each affirmation, you've built a stronger, clearer version of who you are. But there's still one voice that lingers in the background, the one that whispers, I'm not good enough. It doesn't scream like fear. It doesn't shout like doubt. It simply exists, quietly convincing you that you must be better, do more, become something else before you can truly belong, especially to yourself. That's why this next affirmation cuts straight to the core. I am enough. Just 3 words, but when spoken with truth, they have the power to silence every limiting belief you've ever carried. Not I will be enough once you reach your goal. Not I'm almost enough after you fix this or change that. No, right now, exactly as you are, You are enough. Not because of what you've achieved, but because of who you already are. Think about how many times you've tied your worth to performance, to productivity, to approval, to how much you can give before you finally allow yourself to receive. You've been taught that value comes from what you do, not who you are. That success defines you, not your presence. But here's the truth. You don't need to prove your worth. You were born with it. Every breath you take carries meaning. Every step you make matters. Your existence alone is contribution enough. This is where so many get stuck. They believe that self-worth is something to build, something to chase, something earned through achievement. But real self-worth isn't built. It's remembered. It's reclaimed. It's recognizing that you were never broken to begin with, that you were never lacking, that you have always had everything it takes to be worthy of love, respect, and belonging, without needing to earn it. And yet, the world tells you otherwise. It sells you images of perfection. It shows you highlight reels and calls them reality. It makes you feel like you must constantly improve, upgrade, and outdo yourself just to stay relevant. But here's the deeper truth. Comparison was never meant to inspire you. It was meant to distract you from your own journey, from your own light, from the quiet certainty that you are already whole. Say it again. I am enough. Let those words settle into your bones. Let them replace every voice that told you otherwise. Let them remind you that you don't need to shrink. You don't need to apologize. You don't need to wait until you're thinner, smarter, richer, or more successful to stand tall in who you are right now. Because here's what most people never say out loud. Confidence isn't about being perfect. It's about being unapologetically yourself. It's about standing in your truth even when it feels uncomfortable. It's about knowing that your value doesn't rise and fall with your circumstances. It remains steady, unwavering, untouched by failure or praise. And that's exactly why this affirmation is so powerful. It doesn't depend on external validation. It doesn't require proof. It simply states a fact, one that has always been true, even if you haven't always believed it. When you speak these words with conviction, you stop looking outside for confirmation. You stop waiting for someone else to tell you that you matter. Because deep down, you already know. Here's the reward. When you truly embrace the truth that I am enough, something shifts inside you. You stop chasing approval. You stop measuring your worth by others' standards. You stop apologizing for taking up space. You begin to live with authenticity, courage, and an inner peace that no setback can shake. You become someone who doesn't seek validation. You radiate it. And that changes everything. You start making choices that align with who you really are, not who others expect you to be. You walk away from situations that drain you. You speak up when you used to stay silent. You stop giving energy to people who don't honor it. And most importantly, you begin to treat yourself with the kindness and respect you've always deserved. So ask yourself, when was the last time you looked in the mirror and truly saw yourself, not searching for flaws, not scanning for imperfections, just seeing the person who has made it this far through everything life has thrown at them, the person who keeps going even when it's hard, who gets back up even when they fall, who keeps believing even when the world tries to dim their light. That person is enough, more than enough. So say it again, out loud, with feeling. I am enough. Say it until you feel it in your chest. Say it until it silences the voice that says otherwise. Say it until it becomes the foundation of everything you do. Because you don't need to become someone else to be worthy of love, success, or joy. You already are. And once you fully believe that, nothing will ever hold you back again. Now let's keep going. Let's explore the next affirmation. The one that will help you embrace uncertainty, lean into growth, and finally welcome the unknown with open arms. You've embraced who you are. You've let go of the need to prove your worth, to earn happiness, to chase perfection. You've built a foundation so strong that even in moments of doubt, you return to the truth, I am enough. And now, as you stand in that unshakable self-belief, something new begins to rise within you, a quiet courage, a willingness not just to accept life as it is, but to welcome what's next with open arms. Because growth doesn't come from staying comfortable. It comes from stepping forward into the unknown, trusting that you have what it takes to face whatever awaits. That's why this next affirmation is not just powerful, it's transformative. I welcome change. 3 words that shift your entire relationship with uncertainty, that turn fear into curiosity, that make discomfort feel like opportunity instead of threat. Most people resist change because it feels like losing control. But here's a deeper truth. Control was never real to begin with. Life moves forward whether you're ready or not. The only choice you have is how you respond. Think about the moments in your life that brought the most growth. Chances are they didn't come wrapped in comfort. They probably felt messy at first, unsettling, maybe even painful. But look back now and you see it. How every ending led to something better. How every loss taught you something invaluable. How every time life knocked you off course, it guided you towards something truer than what you had before. Change doesn't destroy, it reveals. It strips away what no longer serves you so you can make space for what does. And yet, so many fight it. They cling to the familiar, even when it no longer brings joy, even when it holds them back, because fear tells them that uncertainty equals danger. But what if uncertainty is actually freedom? What if the things you've been avoiding are the very ones that lead to your greatest breakthroughs? This is where real strength is tested, not in perfect conditions, but in the willingness to keep going when nothing feels certain. When you say I welcome change, you stop resisting life's natural rhythm. You stop seeing shifts as obstacles and start recognizing them as invitations. Invitations to grow, to evolve, to become someone even stronger, wiser, and more aligned with who you truly are. And here's the psychological truth. Human beings are wired to fear what they don't understand. Our brains evolved to seek safety, not expansion. So when change arrives, your first instinct might be to retreat. But courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward anyway. It's choosing trust over panic, choosing faith over fear, choosing growth over comfort. Every time you embrace change instead of resisting it, you train your mind to see challenge as opportunity. You build resilience. You develop adaptability. You create a mindset that doesn't break under pressure but thrives in it. Because deep down, you know that you are not fragile. You are flexible. You are capable of handling anything that comes your way. Here's the reward. When you speak these words with conviction, I welcome change, you begin to notice something powerful happening. You stop fearing the future. You stop dreading surprises. You stop waiting for the right moment that may never come. Instead, you meet each new chapter with curiosity, with courage, with the understanding that every shift is leading you exactly where you need to be. You begin to see setbacks not as failures but as redirection. You find lessons in losses. You discover hidden doors behind walls that once seemed impossible to break through. And most importantly, you stop wasting energy trying to control everything, because you finally understand that control was never the goal, trust was. So ask yourself, what have you been resisting lately? What change has been knocking on your door that you've been too afraid to let in? Is it a new path, a difficult conversation, a long overdue decision? Whatever it is, know this. You don't need to have all the answers to step forward. You just need to be willing to trust yourself, willing to grow, willing to believe that even when things fall apart, they're still falling into place. Say it now, and mean it. I welcome change. Say it until it becomes your default response to uncertainty. Say it until it replaces fear with excitement. Say it until it becomes the foundation of how you move through life. Because change is not your enemy, it is your ally. It is the force that shapes you, strengthens you, and guides you toward the life you were meant to live. Now let's continue forward. Let's explore the next affirmation, the one that will help you unlock gratitude, transform your perspective, and finally see the beauty in every moment. You've learned to welcome change. You've embraced the unknown, leaned into growth, and discovered that uncertainty isn't something to fear, it's something to trust. And now, as you move through life with more clarity, courage, and self-belief than ever before, there's one final shift that will deepen everything you've built so far. A shift not in your actions, but in your perception. Because no matter how strong you become, no matter how much you grow, if you keep looking at life through the lens of what's missing, you'll always feel like something is lacking. That's why this next affirmation doesn't just change your words, it changes your world. I am grateful for this moment. 3 simple phrases that instantly transform stress into peace, scarcity into abundance, and struggle into strength. Gratitude is often misunderstood as a feeling we experience when everything is going well. But real gratitude, powerful transformative gratitude, is a choice, a daily decision to focus on what's working instead of what's wrong, to see the light even in the darkest moments, and most importantly, to recognize that every breath you take is a gift, not a guarantee. Think about how often your mind drifts toward what you don't have. How many times have you caught yourself wishing for different circumstances, different results, different versions of your life? It's natural. The human brain evolved to scan for problems, to look for what needs fixing. But when that survival instinct becomes your default mindset, it creates a loop of dissatisfaction. You end up chasing happiness in the future while missing the beauty of the present. And here's the truth. If you wait until everything is perfect to feel good, you'll spend most of your life waiting. This is where gratitude steps in, not as a distraction from reality, but as a reframe of it. When you say, I'm grateful for this moment, you're not denying your struggles. You're choosing to see beyond them. You're acknowledging that even in hardship, there is value. Even in loss, there is meaning. Even in chaos, there is still something worth holding on to. And over time, that perspective doesn't just change how you feel, it changes how you live. Here's the science behind it. Studies show that practicing gratitude regularly rewires the brain to focus more on positive experiences. It increases emotional resilience, reduces anxiety, and enhances overall well-being. People who practice gratitude sleep better, handle stress more effectively, and even build stronger relationships. But beyond all the data, there's something deeper happening. Gratitude reminds you that life is not about having more. It's about appreciating what you already have. And that's where true peace begins. Not in achieving everything you want, but in realizing how much you already have to be thankful for. Think about it. Right now, in this exact moment, what can you be grateful for? Your breath, your heart beating, the fact that you are still here, still trying, still growing. That alone is something to be deeply thankful for, because not everyone makes it this far. Not everyone gets another chance, but you do, and that means something. When you speak these words, I'm grateful for this moment, you begin to notice things you once overlooked, the warmth of sunlight, the sound of laughter, the support of someone who truly cares, the lessons hidden in your failures, the strength you've gained from every challenge you've faced. These aren't small things. They are proof that life has been giving you exactly what you needed, even when it didn't feel like it. Here's the reward. Gratitude doesn't just make you feel better, it makes you live better. It shifts your energy, it lifts your spirit, it draws people closer to you because joy is magnetic. And most importantly, it reminds you that happiness doesn't come from changing your life. It comes from changing your view of it. So ask yourself, what would today look like if you approached it with genuine gratitude? What if, instead of focusing on what's missing, you focus on what's already here? What if you stopped waiting for the perfect life and started appreciating the life you already have? Say it now, and mean it. I am grateful for this moment. Say it when you wake up. Say it when you feel overwhelmed. Say it when things don't go as planned. Say it until it becomes your first response to life instead of your last thought before bed. Because gratitude doesn't just change your words, it changes your energy. It changes your outlook. It changes your entire way of being. And once you start living from a place of deep appreciation, nothing will ever feel out of reach again. Now, let's keep moving forward. Let's explore the next affirmation, the one that will help you unlock unstoppable courage, face your fears head on, and finally take the action you've been waiting for. You've learned to be grateful for this moment. You've embraced the beauty of now, the power of perspective, and the truth that happiness doesn't come from changing your life. It comes from changing how you see it. And with each affirmation, you've built a foundation so strong that even fear begins to shrink in its presence. But there's still one force that tries to hold you back, not always with loud warnings or dramatic disasters, but with quiet whispers that creep in when you're about to take a risk, make a move, or step into something new. Fear. It tells you you might fail. It reminds you you've tried before. It asks, what if you're not ready? And while fear may sound like concern, it's really just resistance disguised as protection. That's why this next affirmation is not just powerful, it's unstoppable. I have courage within me. 3 words that silence doubt, fuel action, and remind you that bravery isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward anyway. Think about the moments in your life when you felt most alive. Chances are, they didn't come from staying safe. They came from saying yes when you wanted to say no. From speaking up when silence felt easier. From taking a step forward even though everything inside you was screaming to retreat. Courage doesn't mean you don't feel fear. It means you don't let fear decide your path. Here's the deeper truth. Courage is not something you need to find. It's something you already carry. It lives in every choice you've made to keep going, even when the road got rough. In every time you stood up after falling. In every breath you took when giving up felt easier. You've been courageous all along. You just haven't always recognized it. And yet so many wait for courage to arrive like a wave they can ride. They think they'll suddenly feel ready, that fear will disappear, and then they'll act. But real courage doesn't work that way. It grows through use. Like a muscle, it strengthens with every small step you take in the direction of what matters most. Every time you speak up, reach out, try again, you build more of it. Every time you face discomfort instead of avoiding it, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than you thought. That's why saying I have courage within me is more than just a phrase. It's a declaration of who you are. It's a reminder that bravery isn't reserved for heroes in movies or people who never feel afraid. It's for you. For every person standing on the edge of something important, heart pounding, palms sweating, but still choosing to go forward. Because here's what most people don't realize. Courage doesn't require certainty. It requires trust in yourself, in the process, in the belief that you will figure things out as you go. It's knowing that even if you stumble, you'll get back up. Even if you make mistakes, you'll learn from them. Even if you feel fear, you won't let it control you. This is where real transformation happens. Not in waiting for perfect conditions, but in acting despite imperfect ones. Not in waiting until you feel fearless, but in moving forward while still feeling afraid. Because every time you do, you prove to yourself that you are capable, that you are strong, that you are becoming someone who doesn't just survive, you leads their own life. And here's the reward. When you start speaking these words with conviction, I have courage within me, something shifts. You stop shrinking from challenges. You stop letting fear dictate your choices. You begin to see obstacles not as stop signs, but as stepping stones. You start leaning into discomfort because you know it's where growth lives. And most importantly, you begin to live with a boldness that changes everything. So ask yourself, what has fear been keeping you from lately? What dream have you been postponing? What conversation have you been avoiding? What goal have you convinced yourself you're not ready for? The truth is, you don't need to be fully ready to begin. You just need to be willing. Say it now and mean it. I have courage within me. Say it when fear tries to pull you back. Say it when uncertainty feels overwhelming. Say it when you feel like hiding instead of showing up. Say it until it becomes your default response to doubt, until it fuels every action you take, until it becomes the heartbeat of everything you do. Because courage is not something you find, it's something you choose. And once you start choosing it, nothing will ever hold you back again. Now let's keep going. Let's explore the final affirmation, the one that will help you take full ownership of your life, claim your power, and finally become the creator of your own destiny. You've faced fear, you've embraced gratitude, you've welcomed change, trusted yourself, and stood in the truth that you are enough. Every affirmation you've spoken has built something unshakable within you, a foundation of clarity, strength, and self-belief so deep that nothing can shake it. And now, as you stand at the edge of who you've always been and who you're becoming, there's one final realization that will elevate everything you've built so far. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are not a passenger in your own life. You are not waiting for someone or something to give you permission to rise. You are the creator. That's why this final affirmation doesn't just change your mindset, it changes your entire reality. I create my reality. 3 words that carry the weight of ultimate power. Not control over everything, but command over yourself, over your thoughts, your choices, your actions, your energy. Because the life you live is not shaped by what happens to you, but by how you respond to it. And once you fully embrace that truth, nothing will ever hold you back again. Think about how often you've blamed your circumstances for where you are. How many times have you told yourself, if only I had more money, more time, better luck, then maybe you could finally start living the life you want. But here's the deeper truth. Waiting for perfect conditions means waiting forever. Real power doesn't come from having everything figured out. It comes from knowing that you have everything you need right now to begin building the life you desire. Because reality isn't something that happens to you. It's something you shape every single day. With every choice you make, with every thought you feed, with every action you take, the way you speak to yourself, the way you treat others, the way you move through challenges. All of it is part of the creation process. And whether you realize it or not, you're creating all the time. The only question is, are you creating on purpose? This is where most people stay stuck, not because they lack ability, but because they haven't claimed ownership of their lives. They let external factors define their limits. They wait for motivation to strike before they act. They believe success is something that happens to other people, never to them. But the truth is, success doesn't find you. You find success. Through consistent effort. Through intentional decisions. Through the daily practice of shaping your mind, your habits, and your environment to support the life you want. And that's exactly what this affirmation does. It reminds you that you are not trapped. You are not limited. You are not defined by your past. You are not at the mercy of fate. You are the architect of your future. Every word you speak, every belief you hold, every step you take, it all builds toward the life you are creating. So ask yourself, what kind of life are you building right now? Are you reinforcing patterns that keep you small? Or are you making choices that expand your potential? Are you feeding thoughts that lift you up, or ones that pull you down? Are you taking action that aligns with who you truly want to be? Or are you letting comfort decide your path? Here's the reward. When you start speaking these words with conviction, I create my reality, you begin to see your life differently. You stop blaming, complaining, and waiting. You stop giving away your power to circumstances, people, or past experiences. Instead, you take full responsibility, not as punishment, but as empowerment. Because once you realize that you are the creator, you also realize that you have the power to change anything. You don't need permission to grow. You don't need approval to evolve. You don't need certainty to begin. You just need to make the decision to show up, to choose wisely, to act boldly, and to keep going no matter what. Because every time you do, you reinforce the truth that you are not shaped by life. You are shaping it. So say it now, and mean it. I create my reality. Say it when things feel uncertain. Say it when doubt creeps in. Say it when you feel like giving up. Say it until it becomes the lens through which you see everything. until it fuels every decision you make, until it becomes the foundation of how you move through the world. Because you were never meant to simply exist. You were meant to create, to build, to lead, to become. And now more than ever, you know the truth. You are not just living your life. You are designing it. Every single day, you've claimed your power. You've stepped into the truth that you are not at the mercy of life. You are its creator. Every affirmation you've spoken has led to this moment, building a foundation so strong that even the loudest doubts begin to fade in its presence. But here's what most people don't realize. Knowing your power is only half the battle. The other half? Using it every single day. Because strength left unused becomes dormant. Confidence forgotten turns into hesitation, and potential unclaimed simply fades away. That's why the final step isn't just about belief. It's about action. Not someday. Not when you feel ready. But now. Because the difference between those who dream and those who live their dreams is not talent, luck, or circumstance. It's consistency. It's showing up, speaking up, stepping forward. Even when fear is still whispering in your ear. That's how transformation becomes real. That's how affirmations stop being words and start becoming your way of life. Let's be honest. This journey wasn't easy. There were moments when doubt tried to pull you back. Times when old patterns fought for control. Days when you questioned if any of this would truly change anything. But look at where you stand now. You no longer shrink from challenges. You no longer wait for permission. You no longer let fear decide your path. You have built something unshakable within yourself. A voice so clear, so powerful, so deeply rooted in truth that nothing can silence it. And that voice doesn't say, I hope. It doesn't say maybe later. It doesn't ask what if. No, it says I am. It says I choose. It says I create. Those words don't just shape your thoughts, they shape your world. They remind you that every time you speak with conviction, you reinforce who you are becoming. Every time you take action aligned with your truth, you move closer to the life you deserve. So ask yourself, what will you do with everything you now know? Will you return to old habits, letting these words fade into forgetfulness? Or will you commit to speaking them daily, feeling them deeply, living them fully? Because here's the truth, affirmations don't work because they sound good. They work because you give them power through repetition, emotion, and belief. They work when you make them part of your identity, when you let them guide your choices, your mindset, your entire way of being. This is your chance to break the cycle, not just for today, but for the rest of your life. To replace self-doubt with certainty, to trade worry for peace, to turn comparison to celebration, to build a relationship with yourself based on trust, love, and unwavering self-worth. This isn't about fixing yourself. It's about remembering who you already are and choosing to live as that person every single day. Because here's something no one tells you, growth doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small moments, in quiet decisions, in the way you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. In the way you respond to setbacks, rejection, and uncertainty. In the courage it takes to keep going when giving up feels easier. That's where true transformation lives, not in grand declarations but in daily practice. So imagine what your life could look like 6 months from now if you kept speaking these words with conviction. If you kept choosing peace over worry, gratitude over resentment, courage over fear. Imagine how different you'll feel a year from now if you keep reminding yourself that you are capable, that you are enough, that you deserve happiness, that you create your reality. Imagine the confidence you'll carry, the clarity you'll gain, the strength you'll develop, the life you'll build. And here's the reward. The more you speak these affirmations, the more you begin to believe them. And the more you believe them, the more you act like someone who does. You make bolder choices. You set stronger boundaries. You pursue goals with purpose instead of hesitation. You show up for yourself in ways you never have before. And slowly, steadily, you become someone who doesn't just want a better life. You lives one. So don't let this end here. Don't treat this as just another video you watched, another message you liked and moved on from. Let this be the moment everything shifts. Let this be the day you decided to take full ownership of your mind, your energy, your future. Let this be the day you started speaking to yourself with the same strength, kindness, and belief that you offer to those you love most. Because you deserve that. You deserve to live with purpose, with peace, with power. Now go back to the beginning. Revisit each affirmation. Speak them out loud. Feel them in your chest. Let them settle deep into your bones. Make them yours, not just for today, but for every day forward. Because you are capable. You choose peace over worry. Your progress matters. You trust yourself. You deserve happiness. You are enough. You welcome change. You are grateful for this moment. You have courage within you. You create your reality. Say them. Believe them. Live them. And watch your life begin to change. You've spoken the words. You felt their weight, their truth, their power. And now, as you stand on the edge of transformation, there's one final realization that will anchor everything you've built so far. Something deeper than affirmation, stronger than motivation, and more lasting than inspiration. This is not just about repeating powerful phrases. It's about becoming someone who believes them, someone who lives them, someone who no longer waits for permission to rise, for perfect conditions to begin, or for external validation to feel worthy. This is about stepping fully into the person you were always meant to be. Not someday, not after you fix this or change that, but right now, exactly as you are. Because here's the truth. Affirmations don't change your life in an instant. They change it over time. In the way you start speaking to yourself when no one else is listening. In the choices you make when fear tries to hold you back. In the way you respond to setbacks, to rejection, to moments of doubt. These words plant seeds. And every time you repeat them with conviction, you water those seeds until they grow into something unshakable. That's why consistency matters more than intensity. It's not about how loudly you speak these words once. It's about how often you return to them, how deeply you believe them, how completely you let them shape your reality. Because belief is not a single moment, it's a daily practice, a commitment to speak to yourself with kindness instead of criticism, with clarity instead of confusion, with strength instead of surrender. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who seem to move through life with unwavering confidence, peace, and purpose. Chances are they didn't wake up one day feeling this way. They built it. One word at a time, one choice at a time, one moment of courage at a time, and so can you. Because growth doesn't happen all at once. It happens when you keep showing up, even when you don't feel like it. When you keep choosing peace, even when chaos surrounds you. When you keep welcoming change, even when comfort calls you back. When you keep trusting yourself, even when doubt whispers in your ear. That's how real transformation unfolds. Quietly, consistently, powerfully. And here's what most people never realize. The greatest battle you'll ever fight is not against the world. It's within your own mind. The voice that tells you not yet, not good enough, not ready. That voice only holds power when you listen to it without question. But now, you have new words to replace it. Words that remind you who you truly are. Words that bring you back to center when life tries to pull you off course. Words that fuel your journey not just today, but for years to come. So ask yourself, what kind of person do you want to become? Someone who lets fear decide their limits, or someone who chooses courage, even when the path is unclear? Someone who waits for happiness to arrive, or someone who creates it from within? Someone who watches life pass them by, or someone who steps forward and shapes it with intention? The answer lies not in what you say once, but in what you choose every day. That's the real power of these affirmations. Not just that they sound good, but that they align you with the version of yourself that already exists beneath the noise. The version that knows its worth, that trusts its strength, that refuses to settle for less than it deserves. That version has been waiting for you to remember it, and now, you have. So don't treat this as just another message you heard. Let this be the moment you decided to take full ownership of your inner world. Let this be the moment you stopped doubting yourself and started declaring your truth. Let this be the moment you began speaking to yourself like someone you deeply care about, because you are capable. You choose peace over worry. Your progress matters. You trust yourself. You deserve happiness. You are enough. You welcome change. You are grateful for this moment. You have courage within you. You create your reality. Say them again. Mean them more. Live them fully. And then watch everything begin to shift. You've made a choice. Not just to speak these words, but to believe them. Not just to hear this message, but to let it change you. And that choice, however quiet, however internal, is the most powerful decision you will ever make. Because from this moment forward, you are no longer living by accident. You are no longer drifting through life waiting for motivation to strike or for circumstances to align. You are stepping into intention, into purpose, into the full truth of who you are. Because here's what happens when you begin to truly believe these affirmations. Your energy shifts. The way you move through the world changes. You stop wasting time on people who don't honor you. You stop giving power to thoughts that don't serve you. You stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to rise. Because now, you carry that permission within yourself. And that shift? It doesn't go unnoticed. People around you begin to see it. Not because you suddenly become louder or more dramatic, but because you become steadier, more grounded, more at peace with who you are and where you're going. You radiate something deeper than confidence. You radiate clarity. And that kind of presence draws opportunities, relationships, and experiences that align with the person you are becoming. Because the truth is, the universe responds not to what you want, but to who you are. Your energy, your beliefs, your daily choices, they shape your reality far more than any external condition ever could. That's why these affirmations are not just about feeling good in the moment. They're about rewiring your entire mindset, about building an inner foundation so strong that nothing can shake it. Not rejection, not failure, not even fear. And here's something no one tells you. The strongest version of yourself is not built in moments of triumph. It's built in moments of discipline. In the quiet choice to speak kindly to yourself when you used to be harsh. In the decision to take action even when motivation is missing. In the courage to keep going when everything inside you wants to quit. That's where real strength is forged. So imagine what your life looks like 6 months from now if you keep showing up like this. If you keep speaking these words with conviction. If you keep reminding yourself every single day that you are capable, that you deserve happiness, that you create your reality. Imagine how different you'll feel a year from now. Not because your life has changed completely overnight, but because your relationship with yourself has. You'll begin to trust yourself more deeply. You'll move through challenges without collapsing under pressure. You'll celebrate small wins instead of dismissing them. You'll set boundaries without guilt. You'll speak your truth without apology. And most importantly, you'll live your life not out of reaction, but out of intention. Because here's the secret: success, fulfillment, peace, they don't come from doing more. They come from believing more. From knowing without a shadow of doubt that you are worthy of everything you desire, that you have what it takes, that you are already whole, already enough, already moving in the right direction. And that belief, once planted deep within you, will grow into something unstoppable. It will fuel your actions, strengthen your resilience, guide your decisions, and slowly but surely, it will build the life you've always wanted. So ask yourself, do you truly believe in yourself? Not just when things are going well, but especially when they aren't. Not just when you feel confident, but especially when you don't. Because real self-belief isn't dependent on circumstance. It exists regardless of how you feel in the moment. It stands firm, even when everything else seems uncertain. That's the kind of belief these affirmations help you build. Not wishful thinking, not temporary motivation, but unshakable conviction. The kind that carries you through setbacks, that lifts you up after failures. That reminds you who you are even when the world tries to make you forget. So don't let this fade. Don't treat this as just another moment of inspiration that passes with time. Let this be the moment you decided to take full responsibility for your inner world, to protect your peace, to honor your progress, to trust your journey, to speak to yourself with the same strength, love, and belief that you offer to those you care about most. Because you deserve that. You deserve to live with confidence, with clarity, with purpose. Now go back to each affirmation. Speak them again. Feel them more deeply than before. Let them settle into your bones. Make them part of who you are. Not just today, but for the rest of your life. Because you are capable. You choose peace over worry. Your progress matters. You trust yourself. You deserve happiness. You are enough. You welcome change. You are grateful for this moment. You have courage within you. You create your reality. Say them, believe them, live them, and watch your life begin to change, for the better and forever. You've made the decision. Not just to listen, but to change. Not just to hear these words, but to live them. And that decision, however quiet, is the most powerful act of self-leadership you will ever take. Because real transformation doesn't begin with a grand gesture or a perfect moment. It begins in the stillness of a choice. A moment when you decide, once and for all, that you are no longer going to settle for less than who you truly are. These affirmations were never meant to be background noise. They were never meant to be forgotten as soon as this moment passes. They were meant to become your new language. The way you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. The way you move through fear, doubt, and uncertainty. The way you anchor yourself when the world tries to pull you off course. Because here's what happens when you make these words part of your daily rhythm. You begin to rewire your mind. You start replacing years of self-doubt with fresh declarations of strength. You trade old patterns of worry for new habits of peace. You exchange comparison for gratitude, hesitation for action, and fear for courage, not all at once, but steadily, powerfully, irreversibly. And that shift, it doesn't just affect your thoughts, it affects your life. You begin to notice how your energy changes. How you stop waiting for someone else to give you confidence. How you stop looking outside for approval because you found it within yourself. How you stop shrinking from challenges and instead lean into them. Because now, you know you can handle whatever comes your way. This is not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing to believe in your ability to grow, no matter what you're facing. It's about realizing that you don't need to be flawless to be worthy. You don't need to be fearless to be brave. You don't need to have everything figured out to take the next step. Because courage doesn't come after certainty, it comes before it. Growth doesn't wait for perfect conditions, it thrives in imperfect ones. And confidence isn't built by waiting for motivation, it's built by showing up, even when you don't feel like it. That's the deeper truth these affirmations reveal. Power is not something you find, it's something you claim. One word at a time, one morning at a time, one choice at a time. So ask yourself, what kind of person do you want to become? Someone who lets their past define them, or someone who steps forward knowing they are capable of more than they've ever believed? Someone who waits for permission, or someone who gives it to themselves? The answer lies not in what you say once, but in what you choose every day. Because affirmation is not just about speaking words, it's about living them. It's about standing in your truth even when it feels uncomfortable. It's about honoring your journey even when it feels slow. It's about trusting yourself even when the path is unclear. And that trust grows stronger every time you return to these words. Every time you say, I am capable. Every time you declare, I choose peace over worry. Every time you remind yourself, my progress matters. These aren't just phrases, they are commitments. Commitments to yourself, to your growth, to your future. Because here's the thing. The version of you that you admire most, the one who leads with strength, lives with purpose, and moves through life with clarity, is already inside you, waiting to be acknowledged, waiting to be believed in, waiting to be spoken into existence. And now, you are doing exactly that. You are not just reading these words, you are claiming them, making them yours, letting them shape your mindset, your actions, your entire way of being. And that is where true transformation begins. Because you are not broken. You are not behind. You are not lacking. You are whole. You are enough. You are becoming stronger every single day. And here's the reward. As you continue this practice, as you keep speaking these words with conviction, you'll begin to see the ripple effects everywhere. In your relationships, in your work, in the way you carry yourself, in the choices you make, in the life you begin to build, not out of desperation or fear, but out of belief. Because once you fully embrace the truth of who you are, nothing will ever hold you back again. So go back to each affirmation, speak them again, feel them more deeply than before, let them settle into your bones, make them part of your identity, not just today but for the rest of your life. Because you are capable, you choose peace over worry, your progress matters, you trust yourself, you deserve happiness, you are enough, you welcome change, you are grateful for this moment, you have courage within you, you create your reality. Say them, believe them, live them, and watch your life begin to change, for the better, and forever.